to restore our nation to full prosperity. We're going to go full prosperity and to build the greatest economy the world has ever seen, just as we had just a short time ago. We will make America powerful again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America healthy again. We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And we will make America great again. Great again. Great again.
Good morning and welcome to the American Tribune Live. I am Todd Peterson, and we had to spice things up, and I always like to joke about this. We are not on Facebook because I'm afraid of Facebook nuking all of our properties. Check them out at the American Tribune. We are on YouTube. YouTube is always our beta testing ground for stuff like this here. But I am all in on the movement. Donald Trump announced when he was speaking at Fort Bragg, the newly renamed Fort Bragg once again, that he wants to send flag-burning rioters and protesters to prison for 1 year. And folks, I'm going to lay out the case why I support this and why the arguments with the Constitution, the Supreme Court defended all that. I want to just lay it all out there and say I am not on board with flag burning anymore. We're going to break it all down today. I appreciate you tuning in today, though. Just check in to make sure we are all live here. We are streaming on both Rumble channels. The first time in the American Tribune Live history that we are streaming on our main Rumble page, the American Tribune, and my own segmented podcast channel, the American Tribune Live with Todd Peterson. So I just got to see if this is up and running here. Rumble changed a few things how they operate, so we're able to do this simultaneously, I think. So thanks for bearing with me while I check all that. I think the streams are live. If you're watching on one of the Rumble channels, drop a comment here. I'm able to see the comments live in real time as well. Again, so many great things are happening for our podcast. This is a one-man operation, and I think we can actually do video in video today here. I'm excited for the show, but I wanted to talk about why flag burners should be sent to prison. I'm going to roll the Trump clip right away. Normally, I rant for about 10, 15 minutes. I'm going to lay out the case that Donald Trump makes here. This is him speaking with the soldiers behind him. And then I want to run down all the reasons why flag burners should be sent to prison and why I'm not on board anymore with the Supreme Court's decision to say that it's protected speech, protected expression. Why I'm not even on board with the Constitution as well. The same argument goes that this is a freedom of expression once again. I'm not there for it anymore because times have changed and we need to be malleable with the times. But let's show Donald Trump. Here's Donald Trump's speech again at Fort Bragg earlier this week. Here he is making the case for a 1-year prison sentence for flag burners.
They proudly carry the flags of other countries, but they don't carry the American flag. They only burn it. Did you see a lot of the flags being burned? They weren't being burned by people from our country or from people that love our country. People that burn the American flag should go to jail for 1 year. That's what they should be doing. 1 year. And we'll see if we can get that done. We're going to try and get that done. We're working with some of you senators. I know Senator Josh Hawley is very much involved. And I know the two senators from here. I think you guys, are you guys in favor of it? Boy, would this be a bad time for them to say no. I got you. I got those 2 votes.
All right, so there's Donald Trump making the case here. He's over it. He's over it here. And let me show, I'm going to mute the video here, but we'll just get this going as well. So here is just one example. I think this clip might be a few years old, actually, from New York. This is not footage, I don't believe, from Los Angeles, but the same nonsense. This has been going on for years. There's the flag on fire. There's them dousing that with lighter fluid. Too bad the stream of fire didn't catch up to these morons here. But I hate this. You watching this viscerally must hate this as well. This represents everything that is wrong with the communist left, even the NPCs out there that are supporting the idea of, hey, it's okay to burn the American flag, give the middle finger to America, say, I don't like anything about this country, I want to tear it down, I am so ungrateful for living here. And folks, that is really, we'll just pause the video here, that's a perfect image to go onto this segue. This is everything that is wrong with this country here. Laws exist to make the country better. That's my simple premise here. Laws exist to make the country a better place, a safer place, And you can't tell me that flag burning achieves anything good for society. Certainly not for any of the individuals here at this protest, in the case of the video clip here, or out in Los Angeles, Chicago, New York. They were popping off earlier this week as well. I think we have King's Day, no King's Day, coming up on June 14th. So that will be interesting to see it play out. But again, if you engage in this stuff, what are you accomplishing other than spreading hateful ideas, poisoning the minds and souls of everyone involved here, and sending the idea that America is not a great place? Now, if you've watched this show for any amount of time, there are no shortages of complaints for our own U.S. government, even with Donald Trump at the helm. It is still too big. It is still too corrupt. We are still supporting foreign nations ahead of our own citizens in many cases here. I'm looking at you in the Middle East. There is plenty going on that we can fix in our country. And all that being said, I am grateful every single day waking up, living in even Minnesota under Tim Walz's own tyranny. We live in the greatest country in the history of the world. And while we have rightful complaints about the direction our country is headed, and it's interesting that both sides agree they don't like where the country is headed here. Again, I laid out my case. The government's too big, government's too corrupt. The other side will say the government's too racist and white supremacist and it's too capitalist. So we both disagree fundamentally on what's wrong with the country. That doesn't change my outlook, though, saying I wake up every day in a great home with a great family. I get paid to just rant on a computer screen. We do other things at theamericantribune.com. We run a couple of websites. We have a huge list of social media presence. We've got 15 Facebook pages, got the Rumble channels, got our Twitter accounts. We do other digital marketing there. Life is good for our company. I get paid to have fun every day. Like, how many people wish they could just turn on the computer, flash the lights, turn on the camera, fire up the microphone, and then rant? Like, I have the greatest job in the world. I get to spend all day with my kids. We get to do so many fun things. I can travel and work at the same time. I am very blessed. I'm very appreciative of what America has offered me, and I'm very grateful to be here. Where else could you do this to the extent that we do? But these flag burners, part of the problem this hits us so viscerally, hits us right in the gut, is we say, what is wrong with you? How is it that you wake up in the same country that I do and you're so toxic? How is it that you look around the landscape and you say, gosh, I have internet, I have a smartphone, I have television, I have air conditioning, I have heating, I have a refrigerator, I have a car, I have all the freedoms, more freedoms than anybody else in the history of the world? You're going to wake up with everything just given to you, handed to you. You can go to a grocery store and get any food item from all over the world in a matter of minutes. Everything is so easy here. It's never been easier. And your response when you wake up is to say, yeah, this is stupid. Capitalism sucks. Freedoms suck. Limited government. The Constitution sucks. America had slaves, even though the rest of the world had slaves, and even though blacks would capture other blacks and sell them to the slave traders. More slaves, by the way, went to the Middle East. You never hear about that. That's because they castrated all the dudes and just wiped them out. You wonder why there are no black people in the Middle East, even though they got more slaves? You should read into that history for a little bit. And even the slaves that got over to the Western Hemisphere, we only got like 3 or 5%. And of that small percentage, only 1 to 2% of white Americans in the South even own them to begin with. So what are we talking about here? No, I'm not sorry for what happened. No, I don't owe anybody anything. I'm not guilty of anything. But they will have you believe America's an awful country because of slavery and because we have capitalism, which again has allowed you to have all of the modern conveniences known to mankind. You're not going to find anything better than right here in America. You wake up every day and you hate it. Like, something is fundamentally wrong with you. And when I talk about how laws need to promote the good in society, how laws need to protect us from not just harmful physical acts, but these harmful ideas as well. The idea that we are in a marketplace of ideas. This is the other place people go sometimes. They say, well, let them burn their flags. Let them be morons. Let them be brainwashed sheep. Let them go seek out their next booster here. They're wearing masks still, by the way. You can see the protests in LA. People are still wearing masks. Maybe for COVID, maybe to cover their identity. Goes both ways with those clowns. But we don't have a marketplace of ideas anymore because none of these fools arrive at their conclusions with rational thought. None of them have thought through their positions to be like, yes, I have entertained all possibilities. I've conducted a thorough mental analysis. And I decided that America is an awful country, needs to be burned to the ground, and we need to replace it with a utopia that I am just sure will exist. They don't arrive at their conclusions rationally, so I can't outcompete them in the marketplace of ideas. It's impossible. Oh, we got Fally in the chat. Good morning, Fally. Fally is over on the Rumble. And Fally, I don't know if you caught this earlier. I am streaming on both of our Rumble channels. So I don't know which Rumble you're on, but I'm glad to see you over on Rumble. Folks, if you're watching on X, if you're watching on YouTube, head over to rumble.com and you can find two channels there. We got the American Tribune and the American Tribune Live with Todd Peterson. That is the name of this podcast. But then tomorrow and every Friday at 10 a.m. Central, my partner and I, Jason Robertson, my business partner, I should say, I got to clarify. If I say partner, people get a different idea. But my business partner and I, Jason Robertson, do Freedom from the Press. And Fally's sound isn't working. I hope this isn't a glitch on my part. My mic is turned on. Well, let me know in the comments below if you're great lip readers or not. But laws exist, again, to uphold and uplift society. And I can't compete against your stupid ideas because you didn't arrive at your stupid ideas thinking. So I can't say anymore in good faith, that's all right, you go burn your flag. I will just present better ideas to you. I can't do that with these clowns. These people think Donald Trump is a fascist. These people think that America is an awful country. And again, there are quibbles, but where else would you rather live? These clowns could leave tomorrow if they wanted to, but they never do. They never leave this country. They just want to burn it to the ground. If you hate this country so much, just be like Rosie O'Donnell. I give Rosie credit. She moved to Ireland, which was more Christian and more white. And that was really showing the man here. She hated our white Christian patriarchy in America. So she went to Ireland, which was more of all of that. But she left. She actually followed through. None of these Hollywood celebs, none of these protesters, they know what the rest of the world is like. They're not going to get their welfare. They're not going to get their bennies. They're not going to get their... In Europe, you can't set your AC below 81 if you live in Spain, for example. They know life is not better anywhere else. They're just going to be miserable people and complain. And again, I don't want to live in a world with miserable people that get to vote. My vote is canceled out. You look at one of these people and you live in their city. Congratulations, your vote doesn't count because it just got negated by one of these people. None of this is good. None of this is good. And I really want to hammer this point home one more time on the marketplace of ideas. We have moved past the point where we'll say, you burn your flag, and I will get on my podcast here at the American Tribune Live, and I will present an alternative version. I will lay out some arguments for why, no, actually, you live in a really good country. And if you want to change it, you could join the America First movement. The MAGA tent is big enough for everybody to come under here. I want everyone on the MAGA tent. I have a real simple plea. I just want everybody to put America first. That's it. I just want other Americans to say, I love being an American, and I want to put my country first. That means no more illegals. That means no more foreign wars. That means lowering taxes, because an America First nation would let its citizens keep more of its own money. It's a very simple premise. I know it's very controversial, but I can't say that to these people anymore and change their minds, because again, they are brainwashed sheep. They didn't arrive at the conclusion that, you know what's going to really do it? Burning the flag, tearing down this country, making life better for everybody. Because you know, I know it, but I will never convince these guys. I know that if we were to ever overthrow the American government, which I was told was bad, by the way, when January 6th happened, an insurrection, overthrowing the government, it's awful. That's what these people are advocating for. They're openly advocating for the destruction of the United States government, in insurrection, if you will, and they see no contradiction with that idea whatsoever. But these people will not be the poets. They won't be sitting in their coffee shops writing wonderful propaganda for the regime. They will be working miserable jobs, living in miserable apartments, having less material wealth and goods than they do right now. But I can never convince them of that. So again, the marketplace ideas doesn't exist anymore. We have presented our arguments, we have presented our case, and it is so much stronger than theirs, and it makes perfect sense, but they'll never get on board with that. These people's minds will never be changed. And so again, we can't just operate in the idea that like they can have their ideas, we'll have our ideas, and we'll let the best ideas play out. It doesn't work like that. 48.3% of this country voted for Kamala Harris in the supposed marketplace of ideas. Half this country voted for Kamala Harris, folks. Let that sink in. And I repeat this stat every single week because it's that important. Democracy doesn't work anymore. And so when you're talking about, but we have the Constitution, but we had Supreme Court rulings, we're past that. Democracy as an experiment was wonderful. It was worth trying. It's not the only form of government. It's not even the best form of government for where we are at nowadays. Democracy works when you limit who can vote, and you limit that vote based on prior success. Do you own land? Do you have a business acumen? Are you successful as an individual? Do you have stakes in the future, in the direction of this country? If so, then congratulations, you get to vote. But when we hand a vote to people that live in their parents' basement, have never held down a job, have been brainwashed in the government school system, these people aren't voting with the country in mind. They are voting selfishly and in the communist direction because that's what they've been told. These people never earned the right to vote, but we just gave it to them, and you can see how the effects have played out. And so when I'm talking about, I'm going to drop Kelly's comment for a second. So when I'm talking about, yeah, you know what, freedom of expression only goes so far. And again, I want laws to promote what is good for society. I want a law against this because this is only destructive for society. It just doesn't work anymore for us. It just can't work in the way we're operating here. So no, you don't get to burn a flag. You don't get to have your own ideas because your ideas are bad. And at the end of the day, might makes right. It is not a nation of rule of law. It is a nation of rule of men. And the strong men on whatever ideological camp they find themselves will be in charge. Rule of law, if we had a rule of law, there would be no LA riots because has anyone ever seen a protest like this get out of hand in Florida when Ron DeSantis said, I am not putting up with any of this nonsense during 2020? You never saw a BLM riot in Florida. You're not seeing it now. You're not seeing all this in Florida. Florida's demographically diverse, but you don't see any of this chaos and anarchy because rule of men exists there. Ron DeSantis took a strong stand. Rule of law is the same in California and Florida, and yet you see all of the LA shenanigans play out because, again, it's not rule of law. That's a paper thought. It's just rule of men. You have weak leadership in California. You have communist leadership in California, and they want all this stuff. And so I want people in charge of the country, and I want people making laws that are in charge of the country that serve this country. That's my simple premise, folks. That is my simple premise. All right, I'm going to pause to check our views, make sure we are live everywhere. We are live on Twitter. YouTube is not pushing our channel. We have a sizable channel on YouTube. They never want us to get views out there. And I just want to check again that Rumble is live. Fallie's over on Rumble, but her sound isn't working, so I want to see if I can fix that really fast. While we are doing that, let me, folks, insert a shameless plug for splitrockcoffee.com. I got my former government school mug here today, but splitrockcoffee.com. Use promo code TOD10. It is a disabled veteran-owned coffee company right here in Minnesota, my own backyard. By watching the show, by going to splitrockcoffee.com, you support your cause in the heart of communist tyranny. That's right. We live with Tim Walz's leadership in Minnesota here. 10% state income tax. But if you use promo code TOD10, you can offset the Minnesota sales tax. Splitrockcoffee.com, promo code TOD10. And they're always rolling out new items here. We got Paul on the show on Fridays. Paul is the owner of splitrockcoffee.com. Love Paul, met him, do business with him, drink his coffee here. But again, if you want to support a disabled, veteran-owned coffee company, and everyone's got their coffee out there, but I like Split Rock Coffee, go to splitrockcoffee.com. All right, Fallie, I hope your sound is working here. I want to get over to this idea of ingratitude for a second. And so being ungrateful is not illegal, but being ungrateful is a signal that nothing good comes from this. I have laid out the case here that if you are burning the American flag, you're already brainwashed because you've been convinced that somehow this is a bad country. They'll never show you an example of a better country. They just know that this one is bad and they want to tear it down. And I think I'm going to focus this comment on Americans for a second. Donald Trump referenced in that speech we listened to the idea of not even Americans burning down the American flag. So that is a separate conversation here. But as it is directed towards American citizens burning the American flag, again, the ingratitude you display here, I hate ingratitude more than any other feeling, I think, if it's a feeling. But what is there to be ungrateful about? Again, every day, all the material goods that you could ever want, all the material success you could ever want, you find it right here in America. You think America's a bad country. And again, I'm going to kind of downplay this here, but you can burn the American flag in America and say how awful America is. You can be completely brainwashed and ignorant and ungrateful. And at some point, that just needs to stop. Because again, I can't change their minds anymore. I just need to live in a country where goodness prevails. You, with your awful ideas, you are a miserable human being if you wake up and you think, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to go burn the American flag and protest everything about America here. I don't want you having a voice in society. I want that to be stopped. I don't want to have to wonder, like, what are we dealing with today? What paid agitator, what brainwashed NPC is going to go out there and try to make my life worse? I live in a society that I want to remain societal. I want a high trust, functioning society. We're allowed to disagree. We can have conversations. I would welcome the idea that these people have conversations, but they won't do it. And if they did, they wouldn't be able to defend their positions right now anyways. And so why are we wasting our time on these fools, on these absolute clowns? They wish for the destruction of the country, and I don't want that. I want things to change in this country, but I don't want to tear it all down and start over. Because I promise you this, if you take down our government, and I don't even know if that's possible anymore, given the depth that the deep state runs and the arsenal that it has. But if you were to tear it down, does anybody honestly think that what's going to come in the aftermath is better? You would have a power vacuum, and in a power vacuum, you truly get the strongest and most vile people climbing to the top. I don't want to live in an anarcho tyranny world. I want to live in a limited government U.S. world where at least we can try to navigate the political system. Yeah, there will always be a political system. There will always be a structural hierarchy, a power hierarchy, no matter what these clowns believe otherwise. So I want to work within those confines. But for the time being, I want to limit the reach, power, voice of these people that wish destruction on the country. I don't want to share a neighborhood with these people. They deserve to rot in prison for a year. They won't do any self-reflection. They won't do any thinking over the course of the year like, gosh, maybe I was wrong. You know, it turns out living in this prison cell is not great. Before I had an apartment and a smartphone and cable television and Starbucks down the street, life was pretty good for me, as it turns out. Life can get a lot worse when I'm put in this prison cell. Of course, they wouldn't come to that conclusion anyways. But it's just utter nonsense. And when it comes to the Supreme Court saying, well, the Supreme Court protects your expression, it allows you to burn the American flag, the Supreme Court is great in theory. In practice, they've gotten it wrong before. These are the same people that are like, oh, the Supreme Court wouldn't let Biden forgive all the student loans. Okay, this was the Supreme Court that said black people were not citizens of this country, weren't even human beings. They were property. Go back to Dred Scott. They did say separate and equal. And I'm kind of on board with the separate but equal philosophy, but that got overturned later on. We have had lots of instances. Roe v. Wade was a Supreme Court decision. The Supreme Court gets it wrong sometimes. Sometimes they get it right again. But because one time they said that you have freedom of expression, and they came to this conclusion at the height of Supreme Court chaos, so 60s and 70s, when again Roe was passed as well, maybe they got that wrong too. Maybe you do have a right in theory to do whatever you want, to voice your dissent, but in reality and in practice, does that help society or not? And if it doesn't, why are we allowing it? We already ban so many other toxic things, toxic events, toxic speech that is harmful to people, detrimental to society. Why is flag burning any different? And I would argue that it is not. And in terms of the Mexican nationals burning the American flag, it is beyond me how we have not identified and deported every last one of these people already and sent them on an airplane. There should be no more LA riots because all these people should be back in Mexico yesterday. You're going to be a Mexican national, wave the American flag, burn the American flag, say Trump can F off, ICE can F off, deportations can F off, America can F off, I love Mexico. And then at the end, you're like, but don't send me back there. All of these people need to be removed from society. America is a place for people that love this country. We got enough problems with people that voted for Kamala Harris legally. I don't have time to deal with all of these illegals or these immigrants, naturalized or not, that come here and don't appreciate being here. So where I live in, we have a bunch of Somalis all of a sudden in the last 10 years. They didn't want to be here. I don't even think they knew what was happening. They got promised a plane ride and freebies when they landed in Minnesota. They have not assimilated. They don't want to assimilate. Not everybody is even able to assimilate. What good has a Somali population in Minnesota done for Minnesota? What good has millions of Hispanics, Mexican nationals in California done for the state of California, other than drag it down into this nonsense here? So I am over all of it. Send them back. And I hope Stephen Miller is correct. They're talking about codes that saying your citizenship can be nullified. You can be denaturalized if you participate in stuff like this. I want to see that everywhere. I actually don't want them spending time in an American prison. I just want them out of here. When I say I don't want tax dollars used on the illegals, I also mean I don't want my tax dollars getting used to house and feed and shelter people in the prison system. Just want them out of the country altogether. All right, I'm going to segue over. I got one final spot here. I'm trying to keep the show to just half an hour today. Works well for my wife's drive home, so I can listen to the entire show here. I want to segue over to one more thing Donald Trump is talking about. So there is going to be a Trump parade, and I don't have this clip, but Rand Paul apparently got disinvited, and Rand Paul giving an interview said, well, every Republican and every Democrat got invited to this military parade except me. I got uninvited by Donald Trump, and he called it petty. I don't know. I think that's hilarious. Donald Trump just gives 0 Fs. Rand Paul and Thomas Massie, by the way, people shooting down the big, beautiful bill because it spends too much money. It's spending money on securing the border. I saw a great analogy online. He said, I guess if I'm Thomas, this is Cernovich. I think I always quote Cernovich, but if you're right, you're right. He said, I have a leak in my roof, but I'm going to take the Thomas Massey approach and not spend money to fix my leaking roof because spending money is always bad, even if it solves problems. Isn't that a perfect analogy? You have a leaky border, a porous, wide open border, and you're not going to dedicate money to solve the problem, and somehow that's better. So let's just not spend money on principle, and then let's ruin the country, and then see how that plays out. So you're not going to spend money right now to secure the border. Rand Paul, Thomas Massey, these libertarian principle guys. You don't want to solve money to solve the problem. And if you bury your head in the sand long enough, the problem will just go away. Or does your leaky roof get worse? Do you get more water damage in your house? Like, if we don't secure the border, do we have more or less illegals coming across the border? This isn't rocket science. So yeah, you can be a libertarian in principle, but then you have to wake up and live in reality every day and say, gosh, you know what? There's something worth protecting here, and I'm going to protect this country. Otherwise, what are we doing? You can't be a libertarian in a communist nation, in a demographically, culturally, politically changed nation. It won't work. This just in, folks. You and your libertarian ideals living in your own little enclave as the rest of the country disappears around you. See how long you can hold out as a libertarian when the hordes come for you. It just doesn't add up anymore. Do I want to spend more government money? Absolutely not. Do I want to live in a non-country? If you don't have a border, you don't have a country. And do I want to spend more money on welfare for these people? Like, which one is it? Do you want to spend money on a wall, or do you want to spend money on welfare for these folks and medical access and everything else that goes with it? I saw a report. I think the city was Austin or San Antonio, some city in Texas, or maybe even Los Angeles. Like 40% of the student body are illegal kids of illegals. 40%. Do you know what it costs to provide education for all these kids? So when I worked in Brooklyn Center, St. Cloud, Minneapolis, I love this analogy. So I'll get into my sister-in-law story another day here. We went at it again, folks. Long story short, about protecting kids from her nonsense and why we'll never send our kid to a public school. But I worked in the toughest communities, most diverse communities, and she's out there spouting her America's racist nonsense. And she lives in a white suburb. She teaches in an even more rural white school, and it's like, nice job there. Really, way to stand up for your beliefs. Like me of all people. I like kids. I liked helping kids. I liked working with them. But I worked in very challenging communities, and she would never dare do that because she's a coward and a fraud. That's a separate story. But when we worked in those schools, so Brooklyn Center, for example, we had a high enough English language learner population that we had one dedicated teacher, licensed teacher making buku bucks, and yes, teachers get overpaid, but a dedicated teacher just to pull out small groups of kids all day to teach them English. Do you know what that costs people when you extrapolate that across the entire nation? So instead of having smaller class sizes, instead of your heritage American child, and again, not everyone can afford private school, not everyone wants to do private school, but if you're a tax-paying American citizen and you're sending your kid to the school, you want what's best for them, but your kid's now in a larger classroom because these illegals, these kids of illegals, get extra special attention. They get their small group pullouts for half an hour or an hour. How is that a service to Americans? Why are any Americans putting up with that? Yeah, it's extremely expensive. So let's just pretend building the border wall is too much money and then go on with our day-to-day activities. And I'm just using education as one example. If you go on the Twitter, formerly Twitter X now, you can see all these stories about how I had to go to the ER and I waited 10 hours because it was just chock full of illegals that aren't paying a dime there. My wife works in a medical office, and the amount of medical assistance she sees every day as we are paying our premiums, as we are paying for visits to go to the doctor, absolutely outrageous stuff here. But yeah, the border bill is too expensive, Massey and Rand. Get out of here with that. But Rand Paul, the reason I got onto the Rand Paul tangent is because Donald Trump's doing a military parade. Rand Paul was uninvited, which is hilarious. And he said, look, if there are any shenanigans, you will be met with full force. And just like I am saying with burning the American flag and how it needs to be a punishable offense, I am waiting for this to get out of hand. And I even made a commentary earlier this morning. This actually plays perfectly into the leftist narratives. I think they're moist. I think they're having wet dreams like right now. How can we make this military parade get out of hand? So we saw BLM agitators, paid agitators causing chaos in the streets. You're seeing paid agitators in Los Angeles and other big cities, or just people that they just love chaos. They're like the Joker in the Dark Knight. They just like to watch the world burn. So you don't think they want to do something at Trump's military parade? The optics for them would be incredible, especially if the military responds or the security forces respond and Donald Trump's military parade gets shut down because they have to deal with protesters. The left would love that. They would love the optics to say, look at Donald Trump, this fascistic military dictator, he squashed a peaceful protest and fired live rounds at them, which I hope he does. But Donald Trump says, look, you're going to be met with full force. I'm doing a military parade. You can protest and scream stupid chants all day long about how America's awful and Trump's awful. You can do that. You still can protest. But if you get out of line, you're going to be met with full force. I love this message from Donald Trump. Get it out there ahead of time. Let it all be known. Again, as a parent, you just say, these are the expectations when we go on the airplane. These are the expectations when we go to the restaurant. These are the expectations when you get with my woke sister-in-law. You just lay it out there and you say, if you do X, then Y will happen. And then let it play out. You were warned. You were told not to do something stupid, and you did. So now you get met with the full force of Donald Trump's government. Here he is making that loud and clear.
Big on Saturday. We're going to have a lot of, and if there's any protester that wants to come out, they will be met with very big force. By the way, for those people that want to protest, they're going to be met with very big force. And I haven't even heard about a protest, but, you know, this is people that hate our country, but they will be met with very heavy force.
I love it. I love the message. And I love that he said these are people that hate our country. So if I can tie all this up together here, and then I'm going to get out of here because we hit our half-hour mark. If I can tie it all together, it is simply about people who hate this country. And Donald Trump, he is very blunt with his messaging, and he's just right all the time. Like, you can't disagree with that. You're burning the American flag. You're protesting his military parade. It's more than just you hate Donald Trump because you're a brainwashed NPC robot. You fundamentally hate this country. As Barack Obama campaigned on in 2008, and I give Dennis Prager for this because he would bring it up often, and it's really resonated with me on his radio broadcast. He promised to fundamentally transform America in his 2008 inaugural address, I think it was. You can't love something and then want to fundamentally transform it. And Prager would make the case that if you were married to someone, your spouse, I love my spouse, but I want them to be completely different. I want to fundamentally transform them. They're not going to be the person that I fell in love with anymore, but mission accomplished, and I still love them. Like, it's one or the other. Either you love this country and want to preserve it, or you hate this country and you want to fundamentally transform it, in the words of Barack Obama almost 20 years ago now. Can you believe it's been 20 years almost since Obama was president? Not long enough. But that's it. These people simply hate the country. They burn the flag, not out of expression, but out of pure, utter hatred. That is it. And I want to punish their hatred. I want to live in a society where people love this country, appreciate this country, try to make the country better. That's not what these clowns are doing. Burning the flag, protesting the Trump military parade. This is not about discourse and moving us in a better direction. This is about tearing the country down, and I don't want to share a single sidewalk, a single road, a single community with people like this with hate in their hearts. So there's my message, folks. I don't know if that was a convincing argument or not, but I'm on board with imprisoning the flag burners. I'm on board with Donald Trump bringing full force to the protests if they get out of hand. Again, speak up, voice your dissent. Anything farther than that, though, I don't have time for that because we live in a society that I want to preserve. I want to make it better. I don't want to burn it all down to the ground. With that being said, we are going to get out of here. Just a little recap for us. We are the American Tribune Live. I am Todd Peterson. I go live every Tuesday and Thursday around 9:30. Sometimes we kick it off a little earlier here. And I'm thinking this all worked. I'll have to go to playbacks and see if we were on both Rumble channels simultaneously. We're on X. We're on YouTube. The American Tribune has two different websites you can visit. You can go to theamericantribune.com. That's where you get like 12 to 15 daily news articles, see what's going on in the world of politics for the most part, but we cover different angles, big stories in the culture war. And then if you go to the americantribune.news, that is our Substack written by one of our other business partners, Will Tanner. Fantastic stuff there that big tech would never allow, so we don't run it on the main website with Google ads, and we never run it on our Facebook properties or YouTube properties. Talk about it on Rumble. We've had Will on the Rumble podcast to talk about Rhodesia, talk about South Africa, and talk about what the ultimate goal for these race Marxists is in America. They want America to turn into what happened to Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe, a complete mess. They want us to turn into South Africa, where whites are getting their land stolen and they're just getting murdered. Murder sanctioned, by the way, by the black majority South African government. Nothing good comes from this, folks. And so check it out at theamericantribune.news. Will Tanner writes a new piece every single week. It is the smartest thing our company will ever produce. Will Tanner is head and shoulders above the rest of us here. We always joke that our combined IQ, the rest of our business team, doesn't match what Will's does on his own. And again, go to splitrockcoffee.com. Splitrockcoffee.com. Use promo code TOD10 for instant savings, and you can subscribe and save today to get monthly deliveries of delicious coffee right at your doorstep for even more savings. But with that being said, folks, I appreciate you tuning in. Fally, I hope we got your sound working. I am back tomorrow with Jason Robertson on the American Tribune Rumble channel, 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern. Freedom from the Press will go an hour and a half. Otherwise, I am back here on my own show, the American Tribune Live with Todd Peterson, next Tuesday at 9:30. I hope to see you then. Otherwise, folks, have a great rest of your day.
Starting on day one, we'll implement a rapid series of bold reforms to restore our nation to full prosperity. We're going to go full prosperity and to build the greatest economy the world has ever seen, just as we had just a short time ago. We will make America powerful again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America healthy again. We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And we will make America great again. Great again. Great again.